You think wealth can protect you from cruelty? Think again. In a mansion built with glass walls and golden lies, cruelty has its own throne. The night it began was drenched in silence. The grand dining hall smelled of roasted lamb and expensive wine, but beneath the glittering chandeliers, no one tasted comfort. The billionaire Marcus Hale sat at the head of the table, his posture stiff, his mind heavy. He was a man who could silence a boardroom of cutthroat executives with one glance, yet tonight he looked like someone cornered in his own castle. Beside him, his wife Cassandra, decades younger, radiated charm. Her laughter was soft, perfectly rehearsed, her hand lingering on his arm with just enough pressure to signal both affection and possession. To anyone else, she was the picture of elegance. But to Naomi Marcus's teenage daughter from his first marriage, Cassandra was a viper in silk. Naomi's dark skin glistened under the light, her curls tied back, her sharp brown eyes burning with something between fury and despair. She had been quiet for weeks, watching, collecting, knowing that one wrong word might silence her forever in this house where power meant everything. But she had seen too much. Across the table, Ethan, Marcus's son, sat with his gaze lowered. Ethan was 22, gentle, reserved, his smile always just shy of real. His heart beat with a secret he could no longer bury. He was in love, not with the kind of woman Cassandra wanted for him, not with the business world Marcus dreamed he would conquer, but with a man who gave him peace when the rest of his world demanded masks. Cassandra's fork clinked lightly against her plate, her smile growing sharper. "Marcus," she purred, "I worry about Naomi. She spends too much time online. These influences, these activist groups, they twist young minds. I think she's being led astray. She could ruin your reputation." Naomi froze. The venom in Cassandra's words was sugar-coated, but Naomi could feel the sting. She wanted to scream, to hurl the silverware across the table, but she knew her father's eyes were on her, measuring, doubting. Ethan clenched his fists under the table. He wanted to defend his sister, but his voice caught in his throat. He had his own secret war, and fear had become second nature. Cassandra leaned closer to Marcus, lowering her tone but loud enough for the children to hear. "And Ethan, darling Ethan, I've heard things. You know how cruel the press can be. One whisper, one rumor, and the Hale name would be dragged through the mud. For the sake of the family, you must guide him carefully." Ethan's heart stopped. The room tilted. She knew. She didn't say it, not outright, but the blade had been unsheathed. Naomi looked at her brother, then at her father. Her chest ached. If she stayed silent, Cassandra would win. If she spoke, she risked everything. And then, with a voice trembling but fierce, she broke the silence. "Dad," she said, her eyes locked on Marcus. "She set you up. Can't you see? She's been planning this. She's not protecting us, trapping us." The words struck like lightning. 5 words, heavy as truth itself. The room froze. Marcus's jaw tightened, his eyes darting between Naomi and Cassandra. For the first time in years, the billionaire who had built empires looked uncertain. Cassandra's smile faltered for a fraction of a second before she composed herself, feigning shock. "Naomi, sweetheart, how could you say such a thing?" Her voice cracked with artificial hurt, but Naomi's eyes saw straight through it. Naomi's heart raced. She had crossed the line, and there was no turning back. Marcus leaned back, silent, staring at the 2 women who now stood on opposite ends of his world. And in that silence, Ethan felt something shift inside him. His sister's courage was aflame, and it lit something he had buried too long. Maybe it was time. Maybe he could no longer live in the shadows Cassandra had crafted for them. But courage, like truth, is messy. And this was only the beginning. Naomi remembered the first time she had met Cassandra. She was 15 then, awkward, full of grief for her late mother who had died too young. Marcus had introduced Cassandra as a new beginning. Naomi had wanted to believe him, but Cassandra's eyes had given her away. They were not eyes of love. They were eyes of conquest. At first, Cassandra had played the role of kind stepmother. She bought Naomi dresses, complimented her hair, tried to win her over with sweet words. But beneath it all was a subtle disdain. Comments about Naomi's attitude, her tone, her unpolished manners. Naomi knew what those words meant. They were daggers wrapped in politeness. They were a reminder that no matter how wealthy her father was, Naomi's blackness was something Cassandra would never let her forget. Ethan, on the other hand, had been easier prey. Gentle, quiet Ethan. Cassandra praised his intelligence, flattered his charm, and whispered into Marcus's ear about his future. But when Ethan began to withdraw, when his smile dimmed, Cassandra's warmth turned to suspicion. She asked questions about his friends, his nights out, his reluctance to date women. Always in that sugary voice, always under the guise of concern. Now, Naomi's words had shattered the fragile balance. Marcus exhaled slowly, his hands clasped together on the table. "Naomi," he said at last, his voice low, dangerous. "That is a serious accusation." Naomi's eyes burned. "It's not an accusation, Dad. It's the truth. She's been whispering in your ear, twisting everything. About me, about Ethan. She wants to isolate us, make us look like problems, so you only have her." Cassandra gasped softly, her hand flying to her chest. "Marcus, you know I've only ever wanted the best for your children. This is heartbreaking." But Naomi didn't flinch. "You've been watching me, Cassandra. You've been waiting for a mistake. But I see you. I see what you're doing. And I won't let you destroy us." The room was suffocating. Marcus's silence was unbearable. Then, Ethan's voice, fragile but steady, broke through. "She's right," he whispered. His hands shook, his eyes wet. "Naomi's right. Cassandra isn't protecting us. She's controlling us. And there's something I need to say." Every eye turned to him. His chest tightened, his throat burned, but he couldn't stop. "I'm gay," he said. The words fell heavy, irreversible. "And I'm done hiding it." Cassandra's eyes widened, a flicker of triumph hidden behind her feigned shock. Naomi reached for her brother's hand under the table, squeezing it tight. Marcus froze, the world collapsing around him. The glass walls of the mansion reflected their faces. Fear, anger, truth. For the first time, the family sat not in silence, but on the edge of a storm that could either tear them apart or set them free. And the storm was only beginning. The silence after Ethan's confession was almost unbearable, like the walls themselves were holding their breath. Marcus stared at his son, the man who carried his name, the heir he had envisioned leading Hale Industries into another empire. But those two words, "I am gay," echoed through him louder than any market crash, any betrayal in business. It wasn't shame he felt, though Cassandra hoped it was. It was confusion, fear, and something heavier. The realization that his carefully crafted world was slipping out of his control. Naomi squeezed Ethan's hand tighter, as if to say, "You're not alone." Her eyes dared their father to speak, dared him to choose between truth and the poison Cassandra had been feeding him. Cassandra broke the silence first, her voice dripping with false compassion. "Oh, Ethan," she murmured, tilting her head just enough to look saintly. "You're young, confused. These things happen when people prey on vulnerable minds. Don't worry your father, and I will help you through this phase." The word phase cut Ethan like a knife. His chest tightened, anger and sorrow rising together. He wanted to scream that his love was not a phase, that his heart was real, beating painfully and beautifully for someone who gave him hope. But his throat betrayed him. Naomi leaned forward, her voice sharp. "Stop it. Stop pretending you care. You're not helping him, you're suffocating him. You're doing to Ethan what you've been trying to do to me, turning us into problems so you can shine as the solution." Marcus rubbed his temples, his voice a strained whisper. "Enough. Just enough." His eyes closed for a moment, as though shutting out their words might restore order. But order was gone. Naomi's chest heaved, but she refused to back down. "Dad, you know what she's doing. Deep down, you've seen it. She doesn't love us. She doesn't love you. She loves the power, the image, the control." Cassandra's smile cracked, her mask slipping for the first time. Her eyes hardened. Marcus, she said coldly, are you going to let your children disrespect me like this? After everything I've done for them? For you. Marcus looked at her then, really looked. For years he had convinced himself that Cassandra's devotion was genuine, that her sharp words were only concern. But now, with his daughter's eyes burning into him and his son trembling with the weight of his truth, he felt the cracks spreading. Ethan finally found his voice. It was soft, but steady. I'm not confused. I'm not broken. I'm in love. And I won't let you erase me. The words were small but mighty, carrying decades of silence breaking free. Naomi's eyes filled with tears, pride swelling for her brother. Cassandra laughed a cold, brittle sound. Love? Do you even understand the scandal this would bring? Do you think the world will accept you? Do you think investors, partners, the media will embrace a hale boy parading around with another man? Maybe not, Ethan said, his voice firmer now, fire sparking where fear had lived. But I don't need the world's approval. I just need to stop lying. To myself. To everyone. Naomi whispered, that's the bravest thing you've ever said. Marcus's eyes darted between his children and Cassandra, his empire crumbling in front of him. He thought of shareholders, headlines, the whispers in elite circles. But then he thought of Ethan as a little boy, smiling with a gentleness that reminded him of his late wife. He thought of Naomi's stubborn defiance, her mother's fire burning in her eyes. For the first time, Marcus wondered if protecting his empire was worth sacrificing his children's souls. Cassandra sensed his hesitation and pressed harder. Marcus, you can't let this go unaddressed. If word gets out, your legacy will be destroyed. Your enemies will devour you. And Naomi looked at her. Rebellious, disrespectful. She's already showing signs of radicalism. She'll drag your name into the mud with her protests and accusations. If you don't act, you'll lose everything. Naomi shot up from her chair, her voice shaking with fury. You don't get to use us as pawns in your game. I won't let you. Ethan won't let you. We're not your leverage. We're not your weaknesses. We're human beings, Cassandra. Something you'll never understand. Cassandra's eyes narrowed, venom finally seeping through her mask. Careful, little girl. You have no idea who you're up against. Naomi took a step forward, fearless. Neither do you. For a moment, it seemed Cassandra might strike her, but Marcus's hand slammed against the table. The sound echoed like a gunshot. Enough, he roared. His voice trembled with fury, not just at the chaos but at himself for being blind so long. The room fell into stunned silence. Marcus stood, towering, his eyes darker than Naomi had ever seen. He looked at Cassandra, his wife, the woman he had allowed into his life, into his children's lives. And for the first time he saw her for what she was. A master manipulator, feeding on insecurity and fear. Naomi's heart pounded. Was this the moment he would finally choose them? But Cassandra was relentless. She softened her voice again, dripping with false vulnerability. Marcus, I know this is overwhelming, but I only want to protect you. Protect us. If we don't control the narrative, we'll be destroyed. Please, trust me. Marcus's eyes flickered, torn. He had spent a lifetime trusting his instincts in business, reading faces, knowing who could be trusted. But lover, what he thought was love, had blinded him here. He looked at Naomi, fire in her soul, at Ethan, trembling but standing, and then at Cassandra, beautiful, ruthless, dangerous. The war inside him was unbearable. Ethan's voice cut through. Dad, if you can't accept me, then I'll walk away. I'll give up the money, the name, all of it. But I won't give up who I am. I'd rather have nothing and be free than live like this. He saw her face, her smile, her unwavering strength. She had been his anchor, his conscience. And Cassandra was the storm that had pulled him adrift. His eyes hardened. Slowly, deliberately, Marcus pulled his hand away from Cassandra's grip. Enough, he said quietly. I won't sacrifice my children for your schemes. Cassandra froze, shock flickering across her face before rage replaced it. You'll regret this, she hissed. They'll ruin you. Maybe, Marcus said, his voice steady for the first time that night. But they're my children, and I won't let you ruin them. Naomi gasped. Ethan's tears spilled freely. For the first time, their father had chosen them. But Cassandra wasn't finished. She straightened, her mask gone, venom spilling unchecked. You think you can defy me? You think the world won't hear about this? I've been planning for years, Marcus. Everything you own, everything you valuate can all be turned against you. Marcus's face darkened, but Naomi stepped forward, standing tall, her voice clear. Then let it. We'll face whatever comes. Together. The power shifted in the room, subtle but undeniable. Cassandra had lost her throne. But Naomi knew this was only the beginning. The war wasn't over. Cassandra still had influence, secrets, claws sunk deep into the empire Marcus had built. Exposing her wouldn't be easy, and the world outside their glass mansion was even crueler, ready to devour Ethan for daring to speak his truth. Still, for the first time, Naomi felt hope. Fragile, dangerous hope, but hope nonetheless. Ethan wiped his tears, his hand gripping Naomi's like a lifeline. "Thank you," he whispered. Naomi smiled through her own tears. "No, thank you for being brave." Cassandra turned and stormed out, her heels clicking like gunshots against marble. But her parting glare promised war. The Hale family stood in the ruins of their dinner, their lives forever changed. And outside, the night stretched endless and uncertain. But inside, a spark of real love had been lit. The next morning the mansion felt colder, emptier, though every room still gleamed with wealth. Naomi woke to the sound of murmur staff whispering in the halls, glancing nervously over their shoulders. Cassandra's rage had spread like wildfire through the house. She hadn't spoken to Marcus since storming out, but her presence lingered, poisonous, in every corner. Naomi pulled on her hoodie and went downstairs. Ethan was already in the kitchen, staring into a cup of untouched coffee. His eyes were swollen, his face pale. "You didn't sleep," Naomi said gently. Ethan forced a small smile. "Neither did you." They sat in silence, the weight of last night pressing heavy. Naomi wanted to reach across the table, to tell him everything would be okay, but she couldn't lie. Not now. Finally, Ethan whispered, "Do you think he really meant it? What Dad said? Or was it just words in the heat of the moment?" Naomi thought of Marcus's face, the way he had pulled his hand from Cassandra's grip. She wanted to believe it was real, but doubt gnawed at her. "I don't know," she admitted, "but I know he saw her for what she is. That's something." Ethan's shoulders sagged. "She won't stop, Naomi. You know that. Cassandra doesn't lose. She'll come after us harder now." Naomi nodded grimly. "Then we'll be ready." The kitchen door swung open. Marcus stood there, looking older than ever. His suit was immaculate, but his eyes were tired, haunted. He walked in slowly, as though entering enemy territory. Naomi braced herself. Ethan held his breath. Marcus set down his phone on the counter and finally spoke. "The board is already asking questions. Someone leaked details about last night." Naomi's chest tightened. "Cassandra." Marcus didn't answer, but his silence was confirmation enough. Ethan swallowed hard. "What kind of details?" Marcus's gaze softened for a fraction of a second before hardening again. "About you, Ethan. About your confession." Ethan's face went pale. "So they know." Marcus nodded. "By noon, the press will know too." Naomi's fists clenched. "Of course she did this. She's trying to make you choose between your reputation and us." Marcus's voice was low, almost broken. "Do you understand what this means? The world I live in, it's ruthless. They'll exploit this. They'll use it to weaken me, to weaken this family. Ethan, you'll be torn apart." "I already was," Ethan said quietly, surprising them both. "Every day I had to lie, I was tearing myself apart. If the world wants to know, then let them. I won't hide anymore." Naomi's heart swelled with pride. She looked at her father. "Do you hear him? This is courage. This is strength. Not the kind you measure in money or headlines, but the kind that matters. Marcus stared at his children, torn between fear and admiration. For decades he had built walls of steel around his family, but last night those walls had cracked, revealing something raw and real. "Ethan," Marcus said slowly, "if you go through with this, there will be consequences. People will turn on you, on us. It won't be easy." Ethan lifted his chin, voice trembling but resolute. "Then let them. I'd rather face the world's hatred than live with your silence." Marcus looked at his son, really looked, and for the first time in years he didn't see weakness. He saw strength. Naomi broke the silence. "We can fight back, Dad. We don't have to let Cassandra control the story. If she wants a war, we'll give her one. But on our terms." Marcus frowned. "You don't understand how dangerous this is." "No," Naomi said firmly. "I understand exactly how dangerous it is. I've lived it every day. Being black in this family, in these circles, it's always dangerous. And Ethan being gay, the world will try to erase him. But we can't let them. You can't let them." Marcus's chest rose and fell. He had faced hostile takeovers, political scandals, betrayals that would crush lesser men. But nothing compared to this moment. The choice between preserving his empire or protecting his children. Finally, he nodded. "Then we fight." Ethan blinked in shock. Naomi exhaled, relief washing over her. "But we fight smart," Marcus continued. "We control the narrative. We make it about truth, about love, about family. If Cassandra wants to play games with the press, then we'll give them something stronger than her lies." Naomi's eyes narrowed. "What do you mean?" Marcus picked up his phone. "A press conference. Today. I'll stand with Ethan. Publicly. I'll make it clear where I stand." Ethan's eyes widened. "Dad, are you sure?" Marcus placed a hand on his son's shoulder. It was hesitant, awkward, but real. "For too long, I've been silent. I won't be anymore. Not about you. Not about Naomi. Not about us." Naomi's throat tightened. For the first time, she saw not Marcus the billionaire, but Marcus the father. But as quickly as hope rose, fear followed. Cassandra would not take this quietly. The press conference was chaos. By noon, the mansion gates were swarmed with reporters, cameras flashing like lightning. The world smelled blood, and Cassandra had given them the scent. Inside, Naomi paced nervously. Ethan stood in front of the mirror, adjusting his tie with shaking hands. He hated ties. He hated suits. But today wasn't about comfort. It was about survival. Naomi walked over, placing a steadying hand on his arm. "Hey, you've got this." Ethan's reflection looked back at her, fragile but determined. "What if I mess up?" "Then you mess up," Naomi said simply. "But you'll be honest. And that's what matters." Marcus entered, flanked by two advisors. He looked like a man preparing for battle. "It's time." They stepped out together, father, daughter, son. The cameras roared, the questions flew like daggers. "Mr. Hale, is it true your son is gay?" "Naomi, do you have ties to activist groups planning protests?" "Cassandra claims your children are unstabilious, that why she's not here today?" Naomi's stomach churned, but she held her head high. Ethan's hands shook, but he stood tall. Marcus raised a hand, and the crowd fell into uneasy silence. "My family," Marcus began, his voice steady but heavy, "has been the subject of speculation, lies, manipulation. Today, I want to speak the truth." He looked at Ethan, then back at the cameras. "Yes, my son is gay, and I am proud of him." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Ethan's breath caught, tears pricking his eyes. Naomi gripped his hand tightly. Marcus continued, "For too long, families like mine have hidden behind silence. But silence is poison. My son has nothing to be ashamed of. My daughter has nothing to be ashamed of. If anyone should be ashamed, it is those who try to use love as a weapon, or race as a tool for division." Naomi's chest swelled. He wasn't just protecting them, was challenging the world. Reporters shouted questions, chaos rising again. But Marcus didn't flinch. "We will not be controlled by fear. Not by prejudice. Not by lies. This family stands together. Ethan's tears finally fell, but his smile broke through. For the first time, the world saw him not as a rumor, not as a liability, but as himself. But in the shadows, Cassandra watched the broadcast from a penthouse suite downtown. Her glass of wine trembled in her hand, rage boiling. Marcus had chosen them over her, and she would make him pay. That night, the threats began. Anonymous emails, doctored photos, headlines twisting Marcus's words into scandal. Naomi scrolled through social media, heart racing at the torrent of hatred and support colliding in real time. Ethan sat beside her, exhausted but alive. "It's starting, isn't it?" he whispered. Naomi nodded grimly. "Yeah, but we're not alone." And for the first time, Ethan believed her. The storm Cassandra promised came faster than anyone expected. Within days, Marcus was drowning in headlines. Billionaire betrayed by radical children. Hale family in chaos as son declares homosexuality. Stepwife speaks. My husband's empire is crumbling. Cassandra had turned her charm into a weapon, giving exclusive interviews, painting herself as the dutiful wife abandoned by an ungrateful family. Naomi scrolled through the articles, her blood boiling. She's everywhere. She's spinning it like she's the victim. Ethan rubbed his temples, exhausted. And people believe her. They always believe the pretty lie over the ugly truth. Marcus paced the room, fury simmering. I underestimated her reach. She's been building this narrative for months, maybe years, planting seeds with journalists, donors, even board members. Naomi stood. Then we tear it down. Not with more lies, but with the truth. Marcus looked at her, torn. The truth isn't always enough. Then we make it enough, Naomi said firmly. Ethan's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen and froze. It's him, he whispered. Naomi frowned. Who? Ethan hesitated, then finally said it. Daniel, the man I love. Naomi's heart softened. Call him. Ethan's hands shook as he answered. Daniel's voice was low but steady. I saw the press conference. Ethan, I'm proud of you. Tears welled in Ethan's eyes. I don't know if I can do this. Cassandra's destroying everything. Daniel's words were gentle, a lifeline. You can. You already did the hardest part. You told the truth. Don't let her steal that from you. Naomi watched her brother's face soften, strength flickering back into his eyes. When he hung up, he whispered, I'm not hiding anymore. If Cassandra wants to drag me through the mud, she'll have to drag both of us. Marcus blinked. You mean, go public? Ethan nodded. Yes, with Daniel, with who I am. Naomi smiled. That's how we beat her. She thrives on secrets. If we have none, she has no power. Marcus exhaled, the weight of decades lifting. Then we stand together. The final showdown came at the charity gala Cassandra had orchestrated. She arrived in a shimmering silver gown, dazzling cameras, speaking sweetly about the tragedy of watching a once great man lose his way. Every word was a dagger aimed at Marcus. But when Marcus, Naomi, and Ethan walked in together, Ethan hand in hand with Daniel, the room shifted. Whispers rippled, cameras flashed. But for once Cassandra wasn't in control. Reporters swarmed, questions flying. Marcus raised his voice over the chaos. I will not allow anyone, including my own Wifido, weaponize my children against me. Naomi is strong and brilliant. Ethan is brave and honest. And Daniel is part of this family now, whether the world accepts it or not. The room gasped. Cassandra's smile faltered, her mask cracking. Naomi stepped forward, her voice clear. For too long, people like Cassandra have thrived on fear of being different, fear of being judged. But fear ends tonight. We're not ashamed, not of who we are, not of who we love. The applause began hesitantly, then grew, spreading across the room. Not everyone clapped, but enough did. Enough to shift the tide. Cassandra's face twisted with rage. You fools think this is over? The world will eat you alive. You can't fight centuries of prejudice. Ethan's voice rang out, steady as stone. Maybe not, but we can fight today, and tomorrow, and as long as it takes. Cassandra lunged toward Marcus, hissing, "You'll regret this. You'll regret throwing me away." Marcus met her eyes with calm finality. "The only regret I have is letting you into our lives." Security stepped in, escorting Cassandra out as flashes lit the room. For the first time, she looked small, powerless, stripped of her carefully crafted illusion. Weeks passed. The storm didn't vanish overnight, but the narrative began to shift. Marcus, once feared only as a ruthless billionaire, became a surprising symbol of acceptance. Naomi's fiery words inspired young activists. Ethan and Daniel, seen hand in hand in public, faced hate but also drew waves of support from those desperate for representation in a world that silenced them. The Hale family wasn't healed overnight. Scars remained. But around the dinner table, the air was different. Warmer. Real. One evening, Naomi looked across at her brother, laughing softly with Daniel, and at her father, who listened instead of commanded. She thought of her mother, of the love that had been stolen too soon, and whispered in her heart, "We did it, Mom. We chose love." Marcus caught her gaze. "What are you thinking?" Naomi smiled faintly. "That for the first time, this house feels like a home." Ethan reached across the table, squeezing her hand. "Because we stopped pretending." Marcus lifted his glass, his voice thick. "To the truth, however hard it is, however costly, may we never lose it again." They clinked glasses, fragile but unbroken. Outside, the world was still cruel, still divided. But inside, love had carved out a place, stubborn and unyielding. And in that place, hope lived. Thank you for listening. If you find it interesting, please like and subscribe to follow the next stories.